I always tell people when I explain what Taiwan is like that it's like, imagine China, Japan, and America had a baby together. I think it was a Bloomberg article that described Taiwan as a pedestrian hell. On a lot of local politics stories here in Taiwan, I've reported like from inside the presidential office, from inside the legislature as well. Out of date, archaic. In the same way that, Taiwan is kind of held up as this like futuristic technological wonderland. It's the home of the world's computer chips, but still cash is king in Taiwan. The Philippines, Hawaii, Madagascar, New Zealand, they all can trace their ancestry back to Taiwan. I think in Asia, it's probably one of, if not the leading country for human rights, but there are still issues here. I don't want to sound like the complaining foreigner, because I'm very grateful to be able to be in Taiwan. China has been such an isolated culture for so long.
Hi， 大家好，欢迎来 Welcome to Taiwan。今天我们跑去到台北，跟我们英国朋友聊天。影片开始以前，请不要忘记订阅、按赞、开启小铃铛，谢谢大家。And if you like the video, you have an option to hype the video. Please help us hype this video so it can reach more and more people. Thank you.
My name is Rhys Ayres. I'm from the UK originally, although I've been out of the UK for about 15 years now. I'm working as a reporter and a news anchor in Taiwan. I'm actually on a sabbatical right now, taking a work break, so I'm freelancing. But yeah, my industry, I guess, is news, media, television, broadcast. But in the interim, I'm focusing on creating my own content on social media, similar to maybe stuff I was doing at Taiwan Plus, talking about Taiwanese current events, unique Taiwanese phenomenon, and hoping to spread more information out there in the world about Taiwan. So if you're interested in any of that, then have a look at my Instagram. Yeah.
Okay, all his links will be in the description below. Go check it out. Let's go back memory lane. Why do you choose to come to Taiwan?
Before Taiwan, I was living in China, in Shanghai, and I loved China, but my time there I felt was coming to an end. And my partner at the time was Taiwanese, and so things kind of lined up and we decided to move to Taipei together from Shanghai. I came here as a student to study journalism, and I finished my degree here in Taiwan at Mingchuan University, and then ended up staying. I actually did leave and go back to the UK for a year in the middle, just after COVID, but came back to Taiwan.
Before coming to Taiwan, what did you know or what did you hear about Taiwan?
Given that I lived in China for 8 years, actually I knew a surprisingly little amount about Taiwan. Obviously I knew where it was and its sensitive political situation with China. But other than that, I didn't really have any concept of what it would be like here in terms of its geography or its culture. The first time I came was when I was living in Shanghai, and we took a trip over for Taipei Pride. I think it was in 2018. I always tell people when I explain what Taiwan is like that it's like, imagine China, Japan, and America had a baby together. Take all the best parts of those three cultures, and that's Taiwan.
So, living in China for a number of years, coming to Taiwan, what surprises you most?
The fact that the culture and the language are the same, but the people are so different. Just moving around the city, making friends with people here, the most noticeable difference was the people. I had a lot of Chinese friends in China, a lot of Taiwanese friends here, but I've got more Taiwanese friends that I'm closer to here, and I think the reason is because there's a bit more of a shared pop culture references with Taiwanese people. China has been such an isolated culture for so long. When I came to Taiwan, it was very easy to slip into the community here. And there's a bit less of a barrier, I feel, in Taiwan about being a foreigner. Sometimes when you're a foreigner living in China, your relationship with a person there is completely based on the fact that you're from one place and they're from China. But here, actually, it's less of a conversation topic, and you can kind of ingratiate more into the society and feel a bit more like you belong.
Being a reporter or being in the media world, what information or what news have you come across about the culture itself that surprises you?
So at Taiwan Plus, I actually worked on the arts and culture desk for a while. I did also human rights and some local politics. So did a lot of reporting over the last few years about issues here in Taiwan. one of the things that people know Taiwan for is its reputation as an LGBTQ plus haven, right? A safe place for the community, and it is. It was the first country in Asia to legalize same-sex marriage and all those other things. But actually, when you dig deeper into the situation here for gay people, it's still not perfect. And so through my reporting with Taiwan Plus, I did a lot of our coverage about LGBTQ plus issues, and I discovered there are still a lot of issues here facing the community. For example, gay men can't donate blood. You know, single women cannot have children through IVF. Cross-straight same-sex couples, Chinese and Taiwanese couples, still face barriers when they're trying to get married. So even though it's touted as this amazing place for queer people, which it is, there's actually still a lot of issues facing equality here. That was one thing that shocked me. Another example would be, you know, I think a lot of people who know a bit more about Taiwan know about its indigenous cultures, but I didn't realize quite how many different indigenous groups there were, how unique their cultures were. I didn't know before I came here that actually Taiwan is the origin point of a lot of Austronesian peoples, you know, the Philippines, Hawaii, Madagascar, New Zealand. They all can trace their ancestry back to Taiwan. So its kind of prominence and importance in, like, you know, human anthropology history was also quite surprising.
With human rights, how far is Taiwan behind compared to other countries?
I think in Asia, it's probably one of, if not the leading country for human rights. But there are still issues here that organizations like Amnesty International point out as still being quite problematic. There's issues with migrant fishers being mistreated on the boats, fishing boats. There's issues with Southeast Asian migrants in Taiwan, Vietnamese, Indonesian, Filipino migrants who are treated as second-class citizens. They're actually on different visas that are a lot more restrictive. Going back to the LGBTQ plus issue, there are still a lot of very conservative values in families here, which can create a lot of pressure for young queer people. So there are still a lot of issues. But I'd say even on a global scale, Taiwan's probably still a leader in human rights. I mean, if you look at the society here and how happy people generally seem to be, the quality of living, safe, like personal safety, you know, the taxes here go towards infrastructure that's actually useful. So in those regards, I think Taiwan is still a leader, but there's always room for improvement. As long as one person is still suffering, then there's still room for improvement. I don't want to sound like the complaining foreigner, because I'm very grateful to be able to be in Taiwan, but there are things about particularly the bureaucratic systems here that I would like to see changes to. For example, you know, I think I plan on making Taiwan my forever home, but no matter how long I stay here, if I ever choose to try and obtain Taiwanese citizenship, I need to relinquish my British passport. Now, Taiwanese people who want to have dual nationality, they don't need to do that. So there's a bit of inequality there. I'd love to be able to have a Taiwanese citizenship and keep my British passport as well. Another thing, having worked on a lot of local politics stories here in Taiwan, I've reported like from inside the presidential office, from inside the legislature as well. Taiwanese politics is a really interesting beast. It's functional and it's working, but then you see, I don't know if you've ever seen, they have these videos of politicians literally brawling in the legislature, throwing pig guts at each other. So I think I'd like to see a bit more maturity brought to the table in terms of how their politicians act, because conversations in the legislature here just descend into shouting matches and sometimes physical fights. And I just think it looks really bad domestically and internationally when your politicians, the people who are supposed to be representing the people and, you know, pushing the country forwards, are physically fighting each other. I think it sets a really bad example.
During your time in China, how is the mood like? Should people be worried about this looming Taiwan-China issue?
I don't think it's anything we need to be afraid of. I think it's something we should be conscious of, because I'm completely split 50-50 whether or not I think it will happen in the next 5 years. There's a good chance it will, there's a good chance it won't. I haven't been back to China for about 5 or 6 years now, so I know that the mood there has changed drastically, particularly since COVID. The China that I experienced back in 2011 was a very different place to what it is now. It was a much more open society in terms of geopolitics. Hu Jintao was still the president when I first got to China, and then Xi Jinping took over. And it was really, I think, 2015 onwards where things started to change in China in terms of how it felt to be there. You know, you could feel the screws tightening. As an example, you know, Beijing, you might be surprised to hear, used to have a really vibrant nightlife, music festivals, big international DJs would come and play at festivals there. And so it really felt like a good international, vibrant city to be in. But after Xi took power, he really started clamping down on anything that the CCP might view as alternative or untoward or promoting non-communist values, which includes things like music festivals, things like foreign-owned venues, things like the Beijing LGBTQ center was also closed down. So the environment in China, I know, has gotten a lot less free. A lot of my friends who committed their time to China have also left because of that. Taiwan, I mean, if you speak to people here, no one really is thinking about it on a daily basis, right? Because it's been the situation here for a long time that China is hovering a few kilometers away. Something to worry about? No. Something to keep in the back of your mind? Yeah. You know, have a plan ready for if and when something happens.
Being in Taiwan for 6 years or so, what has Taiwan taught you?
I think Taiwan has taught me the value of the power of the people. Because I'm from the UK, which is a very old democracy. So old to the point where a lot of people in the UK are getting very complacent with the government and politics, and to the point where they just don't feel incentivized to participate. My mum doesn't vote because she doesn't care, and she doesn't see how it makes a difference. China, obviously not a democracy. Taiwan, a very young democracy, and covering local politics stories here, going out to the Bluebird protests when they were happening around the legislature, and seeing how much activism there is in Taiwan, how much of their own time and resources people are willing to give to fight for, you know, Taiwan's existence it's quite admirable, and it reminds me, it's taught me to be a bit more grateful of having been born in a democratic country.
What's your most difficult challenge in Taiwan?
Other than heartbreak?
Yeah, other than heartbreaks.
I think if you speak to any foreigner who's living in Taiwan for more than a few years, they will also complain about the systems here in terms of banking and all. You know, a lot of things are very convenient in Taiwan, but a lot of things also just take a very, very, very long time. You know, going to the bank to just change your address can take hours, and so like 100 signatures, and it just feels a little bit out of date, archaic. In the same way that, you know, Taiwan is kind of held up as this like futuristic technological wonderland. It's the home of the world's computer chips, you know, but still cash is king in Taiwan. And it, you know, of course you can use Line Pay and Jieko and Apple Pay and card in a lot of places, but a lot of places still only accept cash, which for a lot of my friends who have come from abroad to visit were quite surprised by, because most countries nowadays, most developed countries, you can exist mostly on a card. You know, even in China, I remember going to like a rural village and buying fresh fruit from a vendor, and they would accept WeChat Pay. There's a few things in Taiwan that just seem to be a bit outdated, slow, still kind of analog. And I wish they'd hasten that progress with those things.
If you had to change anything in Taiwan, what would it be?
If I was to change one thing in Taiwan, it would be the sidewalks. I think it was a Bloomberg article that described Taiwan as a pedestrian hell. You know, the roads here are infamously bad, and a lot of roads just don't have sidewalks, or if they do exist, they're absolutely jam-packed with scooters and chairs and plants and whatever else. So navigating this city, Taipei, as I would imagine as a blind person or someone with some kind of disability or in a wheelchair would be an absolute nightmare, because there are curbs that are this high, and then there are sidewalks that just suddenly jump up half a meter. I think I know that Taipei in particular is looking slowly. They're working on that and renovating and reevaluating street design, but it's not happening fast enough. I think there needs to be a bit more consideration for the less abled in this city, in this country.
Do you have anything else to tell Taiwanese people?
Taiwanese people are very proud to be Taiwanese, and with good reason. And that pride, I think, is doing a lot of good for the country in terms of helping keep it what it is now. So yeah, keep on being Taiwan and consolidating that specific identity, because it's a really wonderful place. When I speak to my friends and family who haven't been to Taiwan, I struggle to explain it other than it's just an incredible place. I've never felt safer, more comfortable, more convenient. Salaries could be better, but the quality of life here is really nice. So.
Thank you very much for sharing your life experience living in Taiwan, and hope you continue to enjoy your stay here in Taiwan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Gansi ani sokan yo si Juan bu si Juan. Please don't forget to click that subscription button, like the video, help us share if you can, and see you in my next video. Thank you.